Hi, everybody. I'm Tish Hicks. I'm the Master Sensei of the VO Dojo here in Burbank, California. And this is our monthly Q&A webinar that we do the first Wednesday of every month. We are joined each month with our Techno Sensei, Dan Lenard, the home studio master. And each month we also invite one of our esteemed colleagues from all sorts of different genres to join us to answer your questions and give you some insights. I'll tell you more about what we're up to the Dojo at the end of the call, because we're just launching our fall session and there's so much awesome things going on for everybody. But we're a full training program that's designed to guide, support, connect, and accelerate you every step of the way from, I don't know, to working pro. Dan Lenard is our Techno Sensei, and can you introduce yourself, Dan?
Why, certainly. I'm Dan Lenard, the home studio master. My area of expertise is home voiceover studios. There are only a handful of people on the face of God's green earth that actually understand what a home voiceover studio is. Everybody else is an expert in one studio, their own. Don't listen to Facebook forums. It will drive you. My job is to get you past the mythology, the misinformation, and all the garbage on the internet and teach you how to do it properly and simply.
Nice. He's very, very good at it.
Thank you.
And we would like to welcome our guest sensei today, David Errigo Jr., who is a friend and colleague. And we thought it especially poignant to have him here because he's just opened the new Phineas and Ferb movie. So that whole experience. My experience of David is just that he embodies the bright, positive light that is the community and essence of being a voiceover artist. Every time I interact with you, such a joy, such a realistic joy too. Like you're not like, ooh, la, la, la. All right, here.
That's the military upbringing.
but there's just a vibrancy and energetics. It's not surprising that everything's happening for you. So you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and then we'll jump into questions? Oh, hold on one second. I also wanted to introduce Diana Suko, who is our talent support here at the Dojo. So she'll be manning the chat and sharing stuff too. So hi, Diana. Okay, David, take it away.
So in the interest of keeping it relatively short and tidy, I will just say that I have been performing for a long time. I found voiceover in about 2012 because I was brought over to the voiceover division of a commercial on-camera agency meeting while I was in New York and went, oh, wait. I think this is the thing I'm supposed to be doing. And then the next few years were spent figuring out how to get to LA from New York. I moved to LA in 2016 and was fortunate enough to get picked up by my absolute ideal agency, which was SBV. And I have been nothing but thrilled with them. And by early 2017, I was able to stop having to have a survival job, which was pretty rad. Very, 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 consider myself very fortunate for that. Because I spent a lot of years in New York trying to do theater.
Well, it's nice that you have that perspective on both markets too, and the transition. I know that there's a lot of people that's a thing, right? Because it's a little bit different. So, yay! Well, we're so glad to hear.
Oh, it's very different. Just the opportunities.
Yeah. So, can you tell us a little bit about the story about just a tiny bit, because we do want to get to questions, but I'd love to hear a little bit about your experience about being a part of the Phineas and Ferb project. How did that come about, and what's been your experience in being a part of it?
Well, it's been a wonderful experience. That's the first key thing. That is an overarching thing. I have not had anything even close to a bad experience with this property and the people that are involved. Dan and Swampy are a couple of geniuses who surround themselves with other geniuses. So it all just like piles on top of each other and just rises and rises. But
And
I was
and Dan is Dan Povenmire, and Swampy is Swampy Marsh, the creators and producers of Phineas and Ferb. They're some of our favorite Fight Club guests. So in case you didn't know who they were, we're in the know. Right?
Yeah, sorry, I call them Dan and Swampy now, which again is a testament to how sort of welcoming everyone has been and how kind. What happened was the show ended, right? The original Phineas and Ferb ended, and then Dan and Swampy went on to create another show called Milo Murphy's Law. And they eventually decided they would have a crossover episode. And they asked folks back. Thomas was unavailable. Thomas Brody Sangster, who is the original Ferb, who I obviously have to model everything after because he's so wonderful and did such an amazing job with the character that people fell in love with a guy who barely speaks. So to me, that's a testament to his skill and charm and ability as well. So when Thomas wasn't available,
Ooh, frozen a little bit.
which I wound up getting. Oh, sorry.
You're good.
Am I back?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when Thomas wasn't available, they put out an audition. My agents at SBB sent it to me. I did a listen. I did a couple of takes on it. And I actually played it for my wife because I was like, I think I'm pretty close on this one. And she's very honest with me. So she would tell me if I wasn't. But her response actually was, oh, no, if you don't get this one, something is wrong. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. I'll take it. And so we sent it off. And I think it was maybe a couple weeks later, I got an email asking to do it again. I think they just wanted to double check, and sent that off. And then in December of 2017, I went in and I recorded the crossover. And I've loved the show for a while. I got turned on to it by a pal in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, when I was out there doing a show called The Happy Elf. I was playing the Happy Elf in a show for Harry Connick Jr. Got to work with him, which was a lot of fun. So I loved the show since about 2012, and that's when I actually made Perry the Platypus my text tone. So it's been in my brain, and I've loved it. So going in and having that first day of recording even, and everyone being so welcoming, and then Dan came out to the lobby at LA Studios, and he was like, hold on, before you say anything, are you actually from England? Swampy's the only one who doesn't think so. I said, oh no, I'm from North Carolina. If I wasn't thinking about it, I grew up about an hour below Alabama, I'd talk to you like this. But since then, it has been so great. I've been able to spend time out at Surfer Jack Productions with Swampy. Before COVID, he did this wonderful thing where he would open up the studio and just say, hey, come on out. Let's all be pals last Friday of the month. And then with Dan, another voice actor and I, Brock Powell, have gone to The Void a couple of times, which is a VR experience for anybody who hasn't heard of that before. And we've done, I think, Ghostbusters, Star Wars, and Wreck-It Ralph. So getting to know everybody has just been a blast. And I met Vincent last summer at Disney D23, and he and I have kept up over texts and tweets and Instagram and stuff like that. So,
and remind us who Vincent is.
Vincent Martella, the voice of Phineas Flynn himself. I don't do a very good Phineas.
That's okay. Awesome. So in a lot of ways, you've just been in the mix, and then it hit.
Yeah.
I know you've been working working other, you work. So, but this is I love these examples of how you do it, and then boom.
Well, you got to show up, right? Like everything you do, what you have to do is you have to show up and do the work. It's one thing to show up and slack. It's one thing to show up and sort of try and coast. But if you show up and you do the work, I believe that 9 times out of 10, you're gonna break. It might take time. I mean, heck, I started working professionally at 21, and that was far and few in between, and that was theater, just musical theater. And then, you know, I was living in Arizona and working at a theater, doing graphic design and photography and performing for them at night. So that was like my master's program in how to be an actor. Because I was able to do, I think, 10 shows with them in about 2.5 years. And then, of course, in New York, like I said, was doing the musical theater thing, trying to make Broadway happen, kept trying to show up for all the opportunities, all the auditions. I mean, I auditioned for Jersey Boys umpteen times and made it down to the creative team, I think 3 or 4 times after having done Frankie Camp to be a replacement Frankie or an understudy Frankie. And it never hit. But there was also a point where I realized, oh, this isn't the thing that I really want. And through that audition process, I found that I wound up having to be honest with myself that my internal monologue was that if I got Jersey Boys, I was going to be looking at it as a survival job while I tried to do voiceover. Mm-hmm. And so it kind of became this thing of like, you just need to focus on voiceover. And as soon as I sort of made that switch, more and more things kind of fell into place because I was focusing my efforts. I was deliberate about my time. I was honest with myself about where I was spending my money and my, energies.
Well, and then it also sounds like where your heart truly was.
Yes.
That's interesting. Well, that's a great segue. So thank you. That's a fabulous segue into opening up to where people are at with their questions, but also really, that internal barometer in terms of this work, I think is, at the dojo, the internal work is equally, if not more important than the whatever we do to build our skills and meet the people and have the things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really powerful to hear that just even if everyone can just take, like, from the heart, this image that David just said of like that. And
it was literally a one day thing too. I sort of contracted that into that meeting, but I wound up on one of the pay-to-play sites in New York, right? The Voice 123, the voices.com, mm-hmm. whatever, which now, having done a lot more research, I personally don't necessarily love those platforms. Mm-hmm. But that's because I really, really like people. And I think that some of those platforms are a bit predatory. And that's as far as I'll go in that, because everybody's got their own philosophies, but that's mine. And technically I owe them in a way, mentally at least. I wound up with an audition in New York for an animated feature. At the time it was called Richard the Stork, and it was a dubbing project, I think out of Germany. Mm-hmm. And I woke up that day, and mind you, I had been auditioning for musical theater for a decade now, mm-hmm. at that point in time. I woke up that day smiling. I got on the subway grinning. I did the audition beaming, and I left glowing like Eddie Murphy in The Golden Child, if anybody's seen that movie from the 80s. And I literally got on the phone with my dad that day. I was on like 22nd and 4th, and I'm walking south to Union Square to meet my wife where she worked at a pizza place. And I'm on the phone and I said, Dad, I think I found the thing I'm supposed to be doing. I've never, ever had this feeling before. And it was so viscerally different from my experience trying to make musical theater happen.
Wow. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Let's open up to questions with, mm-hmm. With that resonating in the room. Let's see. And we'll go from the internal to the external. Dan, I see a lot of equipment question. Let's start
everybody
with
wants clarification on things here.
yeah, but
I want Dan's voice. Can I have Dan's voice?
We each have our unique tone. So Dan, let's start with Tara. Any advice or recommendations for sound absorption around your mic, particularly something that can hang from a boom mic stand around the mic? I'd like to keep my tablet for audiobook narration on a table below the mic.
Yeah, she's referring to what we like to call a mud flap. The SE Electronics Reflexion filter, and then everybody started copying that. And here's a little piece of advice, kids. It has nothing to do with voiceover. People are selling these things because they see other people have them. They've got nothing to do with voiceover. They're for isolating vocalists in a recording studio. It does diddly squat for anybody in a closet. It really is not something people think, oh, it's going to soundproof my room. And it doesn't do that. It's got nothing to do with any of that. Proper foam and other types of sound reflective and absorbing and diffusing material is what you need. Something behind the mic like that tends to interfere with the acoustical properties of the mic in the first place. They spend millions of dollars researching how to build these things, and stuffing stuff behind it is just not a really great idea. It's got to have room to breathe in the room, and let the walls absorb and diffuse the sound, not something directly behind it. So just make sure that you've got a good acoustically well-treated room. If it's a closet full of clothes, you just saved yourself $6,000. So that's.
So what do you think the because there's the porta booths and stuff where you can put the mic into something.
Yeah,
anything on the mic would be too close.
Those are for travel. Those are for emergencies.
Okay.
Very specific types of microphones, like a Sennheiser 416, large diaphragm condenser microphones, and those things sound like they're in a cave. There's a very specific type of technique to using it. And if you can master that, it can work in a tight space. But you don't want to have a tight space and something you're trying to adjust to, as opposed to something that's comfortable and gives you the ability to perform in the proper way. So I don't recommend those things. If you're on the road a lot, it might be good to have one of those things. Mm-hmm. But it's easier to create a good acoustical environment where you are with the existing structures that you have, or building a much larger booth where you can actually move. You don't want to be restricted. You want to be comfortable in where you record. And there's just seems to be so much emphasis. I got to be able to record on the road. No, you don't. And I'm sure David would agree with me on that too. So.
Well, right now I'm certainly not going anywhere.
Right.
Yeah. But I will say I do have, for those times when I was going out and about, I did pick up one of these little guys so that if I was working, on my phone, because, sometimes you do get those really quick turnaround auditions, mm-hmm. That at least it wouldn't sound just like an iPhone.
And what is that?
This is a Shure MV88.
And it just goes right on your phone, right?
Yeah. If you have an iPhone, it plugs right into the bottom. Of course, I'd have to remove this case because, they didn't think about people having cases.
Go right in, and you can do that in your car.
Right.
Because we're talking about doing stuff for auditions, not for doing project work. You can't do that on the road. It's especially if it's like a pickup or something like that. It can't be done.
That's less than ideal at the very least.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's answer Sarah real quick. Is it necessary to have Source Connect?
If you're David Errigo, yeah. If you're doing remote sessions, if you've never done a remote session, as I like to say, you don't buy equipment to get work. You don't buy great equipment to get work. You work to get great equipment, which means you've worked, you're experienced, and you're getting hired. And they say, do you have Source Connect? Because if they say, do you have Source Connect? Of course you do, because all you have to do is go to Source Connect and buy it. It's not. Or
even additionally, if you are not booking consistently or haven't booked something that you need Source Connect, don't use that trial up yet. Wait, go ahead and say you have Source Connect. because you can, like Dan said, get it very quickly if you get booked. And George the Tech Whittam did a video at the very beginning of this pandemic where he explains everything in great simplicity about how to start up Source Connect. I cannot suggest it enough. I literally took his video and sent it to my agents at SBV because I knew there were still people having problems. And I was like, give them this. It will solve it. But if you don't need to pay for it, don't. Wait until you can use that 14-day trial when you book the thing. And that's great. Maybe the job will pay for you to get it for a while.
And I think also I think it sounds big and scary and expensive, and it's really not.
Yeah,
Like
not.
even in the grand scheme of buying the full lifetime warranty,
it's like $675 or something like that.
Yeah, $675. So it's not inexpensive, but it lasts. But then you always have it, and otherwise it's $35 a month. So I know that that's not, in these unprecedented times, that's not something to scoff at. But it's not. I think sometimes we get, Dan was talking about mythifying, right? It's a big deal. It's like, yeah, not a big deal. And I'll admit, at the beginning I was like, I got to make sure I have all this right. But it's so. Yes, when you need it, and you can get it easily, and you can get it for a little bit, and it doesn't cost that much to actually get. So,
and additionally, there are other solutions that I know I've used in sessions. Even as recently as 2 weeks ago, I was using IPDTL for a couple of sessions where I didn't have to have any sort of subscription. The company just gave me a link, and we worked that way, which I think that's a lot like Source Connect now, which is browser based, and a lot of people. But IPTL also has a dedicated browser to make their workflow even more efficient. I would not get any part of the technical stuff anymore. I know Dan's the real expert, but like I get excited about stuff.
Good. That's what I like about you. And then just a little segue. Dave was talking about George. George is Dan's partner on the Voiceover Body Shop, which is a regular webcast that they do. Awesome. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go back up to Rivka's question because it says Rivka, where are you? It's 3 a.m. Oh my gosh, this is devotion. I have a lot of animations auditions. Love the opportunity to be creative. I'm getting to the gist of it here. Read the script, different ways to do things. After I record some different options, I listen to myself. Hard to know which to choose. So I think the gist of this is, how do you choose which takes to send? And maybe inherently, how do you streamline your process? And Rivki, just an observation. I think the more that we can keep on going out, and then distill to the gist of it, helps in all of our process. Like, for instance, that it's taking me a long time to go like, what are you talking about here? What's your question? There's also just like stuff that we can be doing about how do we clear our thoughts to get to what exactly are we talking about. That in general, I think also helps in the audition process, like that we can always go, boom, all the choices, and boom, this one. And then we go back out. So, let's see, if I had a day in recorded, listening back, and so I also hear some workflow. This is like a workflow question. So let's see. So when you're building a character, sending in an audition, David, how do you approach your audition? What's your audition workflow, and then how do you listen back so you can trust yourself? I think, and Rivki, ask another question if I'm not interpreting correctly, but it'll be an interesting discussion.
So to answer your question specifically, Tish, I have a fairly improv-based approach to my auditions. I like to read it out loud for the first time on mic, because I'm happy for those happy surprises that might happen, and I want to throw some spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. we're also, so often now auditioning from home. We have a lot of time. I don't take a lot of time, to be honest, unless I have to. I generally impose upon myself like no more than 3 ways rule. And then I try and cut that down to 2 ways when I'm going back. Because,
if you're in there and you're trying something and, that's a sweet spot for this character.
And then you bring one like this and that's a fun like alternate take. And then you want to do this and you realize when you're done, that's just not going to work. One, you're probably not going to have that wide of a range with the same character unless it's a really wacky concept show. But trying not to ramble too much. If you go in, you read the script, you let those happy accidents happen, and if you find out that you didn't understand what you were saying, then of course, go back, do it again. Make sure that you're speaking the ideas of the script, which I'm a big fan of speaking the ideas, not necessarily the words, because if you get too hung up on the words, you'll micromanage your read, and that will limit some of your creativity. So for me, like, I don't mark up my scripts at all. That's something that if I do that, I get locked into a specific read, and that is counterproductive for me. If it works for you, great. If you want to mark it up one way and then you're on an iPad or whatever, and you can reset the document, mark it up another way and do it again. Yeah, kind of like an Etch-a-Sketch. But, I'll go into my booth, I'll record a couple times, I'll come out and I'll listen to it. I airdrop it to my laptop so that I just can sit wherever and do the edits that way. And then I send it off. And that took a long time for me to distill. Mm-hmm. Because I was so hungry for the opportunity. I smelled of desperation, I'm sure, because I just wanted to do it so bad that I kept doing as many takes as I could feasibly get in there. If I can throw a dialect in there too, okay, great, let's do it. I was exhausting my agents. I sent them a year wrap email the first year, and I was like, hey, we've done this, I've booked this, what can you suggest that I do? Who should I meet with? Da, 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 da. And their response was, it is awesome that you care this much. Relax into your career a little bit. Yeah. And be a little more deliberate about your takes. We don't have to have every option. We have to have just your best options.
Excellent. And so what I'm hearing here, David, is understand the gist of what you're. So first of all, trust your instincts. Mm-hmm. Just play. That's the first thing you said. Play. Trust your instincts and see what happens. Then I also heard you like figure out what is the logic of what you're saying. Like, what's the gist of it? If like at the dojo we say, what is the gist of it? If you put this in your own words, if you had to say, so Ferb's a guy who does this, he doesn't talk, he does this, and then this happens, so you just get the gist of what's going on, or what he's after, right? And then I also hear you saying make like maybe 3 super strong, specific, differentiated choices that could be possibilities, and they're 1, 2, 3. Everyone will interpolate that you can do anything in that triangle.
And they don't just have to sound different, by the way. When I would go into the audition, the voice director at SP, because we'd go in and record our auditions there when, life could happen. And I would ask Yvonne, our booth director, did they sound like they thought differently? That's the most important thing. Like, they can sound exactly the same. I mean,
interesting.
This is not to be disparaging at all, because he's an incredible, incredible talent. And I admire the heck out of him. But
how many times do we hear Greg Sipes sort of sounding like Greg Sipes, right? But he does great work because his characters think differently, bruh.
Like, it is so great. And he is also very versatile, but he is asked to use his voice because he has a great voice and he can bring different thoughts to it. You don't have to sound that different for your auditions. You have to make them sound like they think differently.
Woo!
And that's where the acting comes in. And it's very important.
And then that's where you can get the clarity as well. Think
Mm-hmm.
like this, think, oh wow, that's a great tool. Awesome. Good. Cool. Let's see.
Oh, also, there's a tail end of that question, Rivki.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
It feels like there's a bit of a question of, hey, if I can sit with something for longer and do the work longer and come back to it, I feel more confident.
Mm-hmm.
My challenge to you, and I think you can do it if you put in the work, like I said earlier, get to the point where you can make those immediate decisions, because that's what you're going to be asked to do in session.
Yes, absolutely. It's so fast in an animation session, you guys, like so fast. You can't even believe it. Just like,
hey, can you do this character over here too?
Yeah.
Sure. What do you want? I don't know. Just do something. Okay. Here's a couple of options, and you have to be able to do it.
It's lightning fast. It's like crazy fast, you guys. And the dramaturgy needs to happen instantly, right? Yeah. Woo, that was good. Excellent.
And it's not tape, it's digital, so nobody's going to be mad at you if you do something and it flops.
We won't use that one. Let's see, here's an interesting giant question. Hi, Kia. What's the best way to grow my creativity? Watching more content? Thought experiments? Yes, all of the above. Mm-hmm. Like just even asking that question is like, I don't know, make some shit up. Like,
oh well, I have an answer, but I'll let David go first on that.
Oh well, let's hear your voice. What do you have to say, Dan?
Well, believe it or not, I actually have a master's degree in creative studies.
Is that a thing? Who made that up?
Only 2 schools in the world, and I happen to attend one of them.
Whoa, this is fascinating.
Creativity is the synthesis of everything you know, and reapplying it in varied ways. So how do you improve your creativity? Have an extremely wide base of knowledge and social and cultural literacy. Know as much, if you have a lot of trivial knowledge, it's amazing how you can apply that in new and varied ways, because that is the essence of creativity. And, if you're a voice actor or an actor, the choices you make, it's like, what are the experiences you have and how do you relate to that way? And so if you really are concentrating on how you sound and all that stuff, David said, you've got to be different. You've got to think, what's a different approach to this? Or just how quickly can you come up with weird stuff in your mind and throw it out there?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not that I'm bragging about my master's degree.
No, I love that. I want to sit down and I want to know more about that. I want to like let's do a whole session on that. That's great. At the dojo we talk about playing fully, like David was talking, like shink and go for it, like play fully, and when you're in it, do it fully.
Strong and wrong.
Also, and then also playfully, just play. And so if you come from a mindset that you've gotten to wherever you are and have been, have developed your soul in a fairly linear way, then then just like keep on opening up to playing, honoring what creativity there is in linear thinking too. I think that's also, we just had a fantastic summer of working with lots and lots of amazing professional opera singers, and probably some of them are here. Hi guys. But it's so my favorite thing to work with people who come from, David just said, oh, that's the military background. So who come from like, this is how we do it. It's done like this, and this. Cross the I's, cross the T's, dot the I's, check the lists, right? That everything needs to be this, and there's a way that it's supposed to be. And so I love working with people like this, because there's always this moment, like the beagles that have grown up in laboratories coming out and feeling the grass for the first time. So just honor how you work, and be open to how other things do. And you asking that question is doing that. How about you, David? What's the best way to grow creativity?
Well, I absolutely adore Dan's answer. So I'm going to take a little bit of an off ramp and say, how about for growing versatility? And one of the ways that I personally have done that is by parroting. So when I watch something on TV, if I like the way it sounds, I will try and mimic it. And it's not necessarily my wife's favorite thing, but I've done it forever. It's how I learned to sing with Broadway CDs in my car. I will just try and understand my instrument by exploration through external forces, right? That something outside of me will influence that desire to try to do it. And I just try and do it. And if I do it, great. If I don't, okay, cool. But I've just played a little bit and learned a little bit more about where I can go.
Woo, that's, yeah, good question here and great answers, Dan and David. That's awesome. Yeah, and then, just keep on creating your own playground too. That's the dojo is just a big playground, and then we just share and here's how you define your own playground. So you set those parameters. That's great. Quick question, Torian, what a cool name. What is really meant by studio quality? And rant quickly, Dan.
Well, I'm glad they said studio quality as opposed to quality.
Right. Well, I guess it is a little differentiation, right?
Yeah, exactly. And what is meant by that? We've broken it down into some very simple terms. It means it doesn't sound bad. Really simply. What is it that they're requiring? What is professional quality? What is studio quality? The acoustics are good. There's no sound coming in. There's no, overt reflection in the room. You're using proper microphone technique, and your levels are set properly. Other than that, that's what studio quality is. It has nothing to do with all those racks of equipment and guitars hanging on the wall and windows and couches and the producers sitting on them. It has to do with how you do what you do in your closet or in your booth. What is the acoustical signature of the room you're in? How do you use your microphone? Do you know how to set levels?
Have you set up a good craft services table?
Well, I've actually gotten here in a couple times.
Oh, right. We did talk about omelets, right? Yeah. Okay. Does that make sense, Torian? And I think especially now, because what we're defining as a studio is your closet.
Or whatever your studio
is wherever you are recording. So yeah. And then, Dan will tell you how he's available to make sure that things are sounding good. And once you are sounding good, just do that.
And if it sounds good, it is good.
Yeah. So a quick other question here. Quality requirements of high-end mics.
Okay. Yeah, this is one of those things. I guess a good analogy is contact tracing on this. Because what we've found is this is a horrible game of telephone. Whereas the engineers in the studios are telling the creative directors and directors what they use. The creative directors and directors are then telling the producers what's needed. The producers then tell the casting directors what's needed, and then the casting directors tell the agents what's needed. So by the time it gets to the agents and they pass this stuff on, they're like, you need source cadoodle and finugalegal and a Sennheiser 5020. I don't know what it is, but you gotta have this stuff. And the fact of the matter is, the people sending it from the other end don't understand that you're in your closet or in a booth at your home. And you'll notice that none of this stuff, none of this question, which is what we've seen on a lot of specs, says anything about acoustics. Diddly squat, zero. If you have a U87 and a Manley preamp and all this other stuff, and you're in your bathroom, it's not going to help you out.
It doesn't sound like poo.
It's going to sound like something else in the bathroom. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So, if someone says you've got to have this, unless they ask for a picture of you with your U87, you got a U87 if your audio is up to snuff.
I will say, this is something that Bob Bergen said in the LA voiceover group, and it was met with a little bit of a challenge. Not to be disparaging to anyone, not to be gatekeeping to anyone. Know that there are people out there making the choice to spend a lot of money right now so that they can appear to be of a level at the very least. So I'm not saying that you have to, but you should be aware that you're going up against some people who are making those choices. I mean,
yeah. The issue.
I know personally, I made the choice in this process.
Yeah. The issue becomes one of none of this stuff will change the way you read copy.
True.
And so if someone says I have this and I still don't think it's going to be the difference between someone getting a job and not getting a job. If you sound the same way and you are better at the performance of the copy that they're looking at. And if they say, do you have a U87? Yeah.
Right.
You know, did you like the way it sounds? Yeah. If it sounds good, it is good. I don't think it's something that people who are starting out have to really worry about right now. I think if you are in the the grade of getting the higher paying jobs and really booking that high end work. Yeah. If you, like I said, you don't buy great equipment to get work, you work to get great equipment.
And and also understand that you get that. Like I didn't get a 416, I don't know, until like 5 years ago or something. Like 15 years, my workhorse AT4040, which is what I'm working in my closet right now. It's like, it's good. It's fine. It's fine.
I used a Shure PG42 USB mic from day one till this March.
Till this March, yeah.
Like literally. And then I did a bunch of upgrades here, but like that was because I had worked to the point where I could get the great equipment, like Dan is saying.
I waited for my 416 to be on sale, like $1,000, really? Okay. But that's too much. But yeah.
And again, having the equipment is not the same as knowing how to use it.
Exactly. Yeah. Good. Okay. Here's a cool question about like trends and stuff. Jason, who's a Dojo nth degreer. Hi, Jason. Do you think the animation industry will expand due to COVID? Since it's difficult and impossible to film live these days, will media like animation fill that void in entertainment? Yes. Right now, yes. Now, here's my take on it. Yes, but animation takes a long time to make, right? Mm-hmm. So, something that you're seeing now. David, when did you record Phineas and Ferb, right?
We recorded the first part of it over 2 years ago. Like the first session that we had was summer of 2018.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Yes, you don't need people, but you need animators, and it's a process. So
yeah, my younger son Jacob is an animator, and and we're like looking at what are the opportunities, and right now they're desperate for material, and animation suddenly is now really hot right now. So yeah, that gives all of us opportunity.
I think it'll be really interesting to see, with this boom, especially with companies able to reach outside of state right now, out of state for voiceover talent. Once we're all able to go back around, I wonder if it's going to be that sort of gravity back to LA, or if it's going to stay that way. Because I know some casting directors are really excited about opening up the pool and drawing from other places. But then some other casting directors are like, please, let's just get back in studio. Please, let's just get back in studio. It's so much easier. Yeah. And a lot of talent feels that way too.
Yeah. Well, and I also think another like creative way to think about this is there's opportunity now to create your own material. Like to think, well, why don't you make your Seth MacFarlane thing? Why don't you make your South Park thing? Mm-hmm. Because those guys were, just guys, and then brought that forward. So, that's another way to think about it. I'll put that out there. There's a couple questions about New York, LA differences. Can you what's that? Concisely?
Yes.
Like what are 3 or 4 differences?
If you want to do union prelay animation, you need to be in Los Angeles. If you want to do dubbing, non-union work, you can do some of that in New York. The pay is, I've heard varying stories about sometimes it's better, sometimes it's worse. There is definitely not the union saturation as far as there is in Los Angeles. From the animation side in particular, there is a lot of commercial opportunity in New York and LA both, and also in Chicago. And there is also a lot of promo in New York and LA, but promo also is a whole beast that is consistently recorded from home. So I would say the major differences are, if you want to be an entirely union performer, that's easier to do in Los Angeles than it is in, an entirely union animation performer, that's easier to do in Los Angeles than it is in New York. And I'm somebody who's very, very pro-union. So that's probably why my answer bends a little that way.
Yeah. I also think that this discussion of what is the difference between New York and LA is going to be much different next year, because I think New York was sort of one of the last bastions of, it's all on this little island, and you meet the casting directors, you build relations with the casting directors, still very intimate and very in person as part of this is how we do things. And I think that everyone working from home has probably cracked that open in a way, like David said before. I'm sure it's going to be back, right? Or not, so I think it's going to be really interesting to see how things are different. But that was one of the big things. Like, I have a New York agent, and every time I go to New York, I'm like, can I just stay here? Like, you mean you get an audition and then like 50 people go to the casting director and one of those 50 people come and get it? So civilized, right? You got to make sure you're one of those 50. But I'm like, hey, can I just come in? Like, you kind of have to live here. But so I think, there are different ways that it has been done, and I think it's going to be a whole nother definition when whatever is next comes. Let's see. Oh my gosh. Oh, we have so many great questions and so little time. I'm really intrigued by this. So Chris, you have a question about demos, but a lot of people can answer your questions about demos. I'm intrigued by this. What was your first animation studio session like, and what is typically expected? I think that's and in some ways, it might answer the questions about creating a character demo, even though that's a little bit more specific and for a different reason, right? But let's see if we can kind of blend the focus. What's your first animation studio session like?
So I'm thinking that was a dubbing project in New York, and that was with a guy who was kind of a trial by fire for me, because he doesn't even use beeps, where for a lot of people who don't know, if you're doing ADR, you get a beep, 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 and you go on the imaginary fourth beep. That's when you start the line. This guy just said, go! And you had to jump in and do your thing. And he was a little rougher of a personality. So it was one of those things where you're like, oh God, I don't want to be here longer than I have to, but I love being here doing the thing that I'm doing. So it sort of forced me to pick up that skill relatively quickly. Tish, if you want to talk to this for a second, I actually need a second to think, what was my first animation job here? So you go ahead and speak to this.
So my first animation job was I played Carmen Ibanez in a show called Roughneck Starship Troopers, which was kind of a cool project because it was sort of one of the first forays into like the level of CGI that we come to expect in a video game now, because it was like 1999. 2000 sort of thing. So it was that first where that cinematic ability to tell a story cinematically through animation was happening. I booked it with Sue Blue was the director, Audi Padden was the producer. We worked at Salami Studios, and I was sicker than I've ever been in my entire life. And the days before the session, I was like calling, I got recommendations to like the top rock and roll ENT in the city, and I got shots in my butt, and I got things. I was like, like a racehorse jacked up. But it was amazing in that time, and how that session worked, it was an ensemble, and so most of the time the ensemble was there for the episodes that you were working on. So E.G. Daly, oh my God, so many stories.
Oh wow.
Daly would come in, and she had all of her kids were really little, so she had her entourage of nannies, because she would go from session to session. And I have a very, very funny story about her nannies. Gosh, the cast was amazing. David Deloise was in that cast, and Clancy Brown, and
Jeez.
Reno
Mm-hmm.
Romano. So it was awesome. It was great. Yes. Oh my God, so many people were in that cast. So it was fantastic. But it's fast, and you have to trust yourself and just go for it. We were saying that it goes fast. Like usually in an animation session, like particularly like working with Audu, who was, the producer on that. You come in, maybe read it once, maybe not. And it's usually like, here's a line, here's the director gives you the line in, and choice, adjustment, boom. So it's fast, and you have to joyously acknowledge that you are supposed to be there. And like anything else that you do new, like how does this work?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm not really sure what my first animation session was here, but what I will say for the second half of this question, what's typically expected?
Mm-hmm.
Know your stuff, do good work, be nice to be around. Like, honestly, I have been in sessions where the director was like, oh God, the people who come in for this, they don't even look at the stuff beforehand. And these are some icons of the industry that I was like, wait, what, really? Mm-hmm. But for me, I can't go to a session without having read the script. I don't want to. If they give me the script the day before, I'm going to read the script before I go in. Whether it's a massive video game script or a 10-minute segment of animation. I want to have done that work, because then it just gives me that extra level of comfort that I'm going to show up and I'm going to make things efficient and deliver a solid product for the client. And that's always very, very important to me. Be nice to people. That is always expected, because there is not room in the industry for a-holes, because there are too many kind people here. Like if you aren't a kind person, you're going to get pushed out. Mm-hmm. Because you can be replaced. Sorry, you're probably not that good.
Yep.
Not that good to where people want to be around you if you're not nice.
Yeah. Fourth rule of the dojo: we are essential and we are expendable. Yeah. Good. Well, hopefully that was helpful. Technically, we should be wrapping up, but I'm like Mr. Incredible. Like, yeah, we got time.
I'm fine to stay if you want. I've got a little while this morning, so it's up to you.
Let's see. I was looking at your question, Chris Tom, about this demo thing, and I was thinking about it as we were talking about the question. So you have facility and ability to make things up from your improv background. In terms of how do you translate into making a demo, I think it's kind of like capturing a firefly, right? So if you make something up, in terms of animation, right, you need to be able to repeat that and know where it is and know what the recipe for that character is, right? So it comes out of inspiration, but then where's the placement? Where's the placement? Where's the thought process? What is that character? Like, you have to kind of do a little dossier chronicle of how do you get to that character all the time, and then how do you create all of the variations of that, right? So that's ultimately a skill that as you're making stuff up, go, ooh, what was that? And then kind of catalog it. not so much in your brain, but that you know how to get back there consistently. And then you just have a bunch of fireflies in your jars, and you go like, ooh, this one would be cool because this one shows here. And then you make your demo, right? And your demo also, there's a bunch of concerns that you want to cover in creating a demo, right? What is the range of your voice? What is the range of your characters? What is the, are you taking me on a ride? Are you acknowledging the tone of the tune? Like what sort of things? So there's all sorts of variations in putting together your little sushi case of these are the things that are the specials today. But I think that ability to create and mentally or in your soul chronicle, like, and maybe even physically, to create, chronicle, repeat. I don't know. What's your thoughts, David and Dan?
Well, that's not nice. I'm going to answer this question anyway. My demo I made. My animation demo is something that I recorded in a closet in Phoenix, Arizona, when I was down there doing a production of Avenue Q. And how I made it was I asked a director that I had worked with a few times what he would want to hear from me. He knew my voice. He knew my versatility. He gave me a list of character types that he would want to hear. I started with my natural voice, essentially, and then just varied from there. I saw down the line that somebody asked, should you have just as many characters as you can or little scenes? I say, have as many characters as you can give distinct moments to while not going over 60, 70 seconds. So you don't have to go like rapid fire, but you also don't want to sit and only show them 3 things in 60 seconds. So try and make it flow however you think is best. They can jump. Listen to demos, you'll figure that out, what you gravitate towards. But I recorded all of those sides that I created, I wrote, based on the characters the types that I was told I should be trying to work towards. And then I found a buddy who works in radio. He put it onto a music bed with some effects, and boom, got a demo, and it's been working for me. So I'm not advocating that everybody do that. If you don't have the ability to make the sound good, like Dan says, if it sounds good, it is good, then don't go get a professional. If you don't have years of experience in the industry, don't try and do that either. It's very nice to have someone help you with your demo. And I know that that's an expensive thing, but reach out to your network and have people give their opinions on what you should do, what you should be going for, and where you really shine brightest.
Good. Awesome. Well, I think it's 11 o'clock, so I'd like to do a little wrap up now. So, Dan, if people do have other questions or want to ask you about stuff, how can they reach you, and how do you work with people?
They can reach me at homevoiceoverstudio.com. A great URL for sure. And just think, don't put the cart before the horse on all this stuff. It's not the equipment that gets you work. It's your ability to interpret copy and make it sound like you're not reading it. If you obsess about the equipment, you're obsessing about the wrong stuff.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So let's see. And Diana's put that there. And David, I know you aren't necessarily coaching or doing things, but can you tell us how do we see Phineas and Ferb? Or
well, check that out on Disney Plus.
How can we follow you on Instagram?
It is a fantastic movie. I'm a little biased, but also I'm not that biased because Ferb doesn't talk that much. So you know that I'm not just all about myself. I just think that there's a lot of great work on Showcase in the film. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Errigo Voice. I dropped that into the chat. I try to be interactive as I can. In particular, if you look me up on Twitter, my pinned tweet has my favorite resources for people who want to do voiceover.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. So you sort of distilled your "Can we have coffee?"
Kind of, yeah, because people, a lot of people want to ask that question, and in order to protect my time, and understand their seriousness, what I say is, okay, go look at Talkin' Tunes podcast with Rob Paulson. Look at VO Buzz Weekly with Chuck and Stacy. Read Voiceover Voice Actor by Tara Platt and Yuri Lowenthal. And go to Bradley Baker's website, iwanttobeavoiceactor.com, which I love what he says. He says, and if you can't remember that, no, you don't. So,
yeah.
And then, after you've explored those resources, come back to me and we'll have that coffee. I've had like 2 people do it.
Interesting. Good. Excellent. And then in terms of the things going on at the dojo, like I said, our fall session is starting, and the whole idea of the dojo is from I don't know to working pro. So wherever you are, it seems like we've got a lot of a lot of people who are well on their journey here, which is great. We do this the first Wednesday of every month. If you're starting out or getting back in or need a little reframing, we start with our You Should Do Voiceover intensive. That is sold out for September, but we do have space in November that we're enrolling. If you are interested in something that's a bit more like you've been doing stuff on your own and you'd like to really focus what you're doing and get it into alignment, give me a call and we can talk about the Mystery to Mastery full training program. We can meet you wherever you are and take it from there. We also, that's the development division. We have our working pro division. So we have something ongoing called the Nth Degree Focus Action Forum, which is a weekly workout and twice a month focus action, like accountability and masterminding support. We just finished something called the Nth Degree Intensive. It's something I've been envisioning for a long time, but it was absolutely incredible. It was 3 full days. We talked about everything that you need to know in terms of your voiceover professional life, how to think like an entrepreneur, setting rates, how to work pay-to-plays. So, and then we finished with a fabulous lineup of agents and managers that ran through people through their paces. So that's something will be coming up in January. If you're interested in something like that, let us know. And then Fight Club, VO Dojo Pro Fight Club, we do twice a month. This is our working pro workout. It brings together top-notch talent with the decision makers who hire us. So we are launching the fall season with Tina Marasco from Sound and Fury. I think we're sold out player-wise, but you can audit that for $29. But wait, there's more. Sorry, there's so much that we have going on here. What we're doing is called the Dojo Weekly Workout. It's a down and dirty, fast and focused. You choose which day of the week you want to come. It's a weekly workout. We run through some of the concepts that we teach at the dojo, and it's a practice session. So if you're interested in that, particularly if you've been part of the dojo, touch base with Diana. I think she's putting everything in the chat about how to reach us.
Tish,
yeah.
Next Wednesday, wine and cheese.
Oh, goodness. See, there's so much I even forget what all we have. If you would like to know more about all of these things that I just went on about, or that I just shared with you, next Wednesday at when are we doing? No, I'm sorry, at 3:00, right? Diana, who am I? What am I doing?
Wednesday on Facebook, Tish is gonna go live, woohoo, with the virtual wine and cheese. I put the link in the chats that you guys can go directly to the event page, so then you can set up your reminder. So it's gonna be from 3 to 4 Pacific. Grab some cheese and some wine, and she's gonna go live, and we're gonna get to know the dojo, have some wine, because why not?
Yeah. And then you can always get on our calendar for a voiceover once-over, and we can talk one-on-one about where you're at and where you'd like to be. So awesome. Dan, always amazing pleasure to have you anchor this. And David, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So excited to have you here. And thank you, Diana. And we will see you next month for this, if not sooner. Thanks, guys.
Didn't we just do this?